Hi, welcome back to another book talk. And I am going to be doing here and there a string of different kinds of fantasy. I have held off a little bit because fantasy is one of my favorite genres. I do like to read everything, but fantasy is one of my first loves. So today I want to introduce you to high fantasy. High fantasy is what you think of when you think Lord of the Rings. And that, of course, is by J.R.R. Tolkien. Even if you have not read the books, you may have seen the movies. So, high fantasy typically takes place in a completely different imaginary world. Magic is definitely going to exist. You're not going to see any context of our world in it. So you're completely going into a brand new world. You probably will have a larger cast of characters that you need to keep track of. There's usually going to be a battle of like good versus evil, that sort of a concept. Usually there's going to be more than one book involved because it's going to have a larger story arc. And you may also have non human races that are involved. So, let's begin. And I'm first going to introduce you with a book that it came out in 1995. So, a year after I graduated high school. And I picked it up, fell in love with it. And the author has continued to produce books that have to do with this world just up until 2015. So there definitely is, there was initially a 3-book series, and then were books that have to do with this world. So if you enjoy it, you have a lot of things to look forward to. So I am speaking of Sabriel. Sabriel by Garth Nix, an Australian writer. And this was an ALA, American Library Association, notable book. I did not know how much I was going to like this book when I started out because the first thing that grabs you is this is about a necromancer. And I'm like, a person that brings people back from the dead. And actually, that really isn't what it's about. Yes and no. So let me go ahead and set the stage. So, first of all, and I just realized my book, I've read it so much, it's like cracking in the front and you can hear it. But here is a map, okay? So you have the Old Kingdom, and that is mostly what we're focused on right here. And the Old Kingdom is where magic still has free reign in this book. And for most of her life, Sabriel has lived down here. Okay, so she has lived in Ancelier, and magic there really isn't as powerful. So it's more along the lines of not like our world. Magic can still be felt, but technology can work. So things made by man and women. But up in here, magic is very much a loose thing. And there's two kinds of magic. There's free magic. Free magic is that which can be controlled by, like I said, non humanoid people. Not people, but entities. And it is dangerous or considered dangerous because depending on who can control it, and sometimes humans want to control it too. The more power you have, the more things you can get with it. And there are also what is known as charter mages. And Sabriel's father is a charter mage and a very important charter mage. Charter mages are trained in magic, but not in free magic. They're trained in how to harness it in ways that are safe. So, good. But her father is a very special kind of charter mage. He is known as the Abhorsen, and there is only one Abhorsen at a time. Now, these are charter mages. The Abhorsen is a charter mage that specializes in necromancy. Necromancy, of course, is not considered to be a good kind of magic, bringing people back from the dead. For charter mage, in many ways, is a type of religion, and they believe that there is a path in life. So somebody who would specialize in necromancy, bringing not just people, but entities and other creatures back from the dead, not a good thing. So what the Abhorsen does is working in that old kingdom, he works on putting the dead to rest. Okay, so you see here Sabriel on the cover is wearing what is known as a bandolier, and there are bells attached. Okay, there are 7 bells actually for each of the 7 different layers of hell. And so these are the 7 different stages that people must go to and go through to work their way back in order. It's not a negative place, but the places they're meant to be. And Sabriel gets word that her father is missing. She's at school. She's young. She's a teenager. And she goes to look for him. All right, that's the start of our book. Because she knows that something horrible must have happened. And she puts on the bandolier with the bells. And she does know some of what he does, for he's been training her to be the next Abhorsen. It has to do with family and it has to do with blood. And she decides to try to find him. Now, along the way, she finds companions. One is Maggot, who looks like a cat, but is not a cat, and somehow seems to be a creature of free magic. And she also finds Touchstone, who is a charter mage that somehow seems to have a lot more going on than what you see on the surface. And together they set out because there is something wrong in the old kingdom and free magic is running loose. Sabriel. I do love the series, and the audiobooks are brilliant as well. They're read by Tim Curry, so you can tell I have those too. The next book I am so excited about, and I really wanted to release this particular talk now because the sequel to Duology has come out on the 19th, and so I hope you read this book and read the other one. So I'm speaking of none other than We Hunt the Flame by Hafsah Faizal, and this is such an exciting book. Most high fantasy books, I mentioned Lord of the Rings, really are Eurocentric. They are based on that mythology. These are the worlds that they tend to come from. And for me, what was very exciting about this book, besides it being just a fantastic story, is that it is based on ancient Arabian culture and history. And just something new, something different. In addition to the fact that it was just a story that was very captivating with strong characters. Now, this story, unlike Sabriel, which is mostly told from her point of view and journey, this is told in alternating perspectives between the 2 main characters. So, first of all, I strongly felt, especially initially, that my heart goes with the young woman on this cover, and we open up with her. Her name is Zafira, and she is a legend. Actually, both of them are legends within the country that they live in, or I should say the land that they live in. She is known as the hunter, and Nasir, who is a prince, is known as the assassin. Now, nobody actually knows their identities. I shouldn't say nobody. Very few people know of their identities. For to know it is to be in danger. So Zafira is very, very poor, extremely poor. She lives in a village on the outskirts of the land that they live in. And Nasir is a prince. He is the son of a very autocratic, horrible sultan, a dictator, who doesn't care about his people, let alone his own son. And Nasir is a very gifted assassin, and he does what he is told. So people fear them, respect them, know of them. So why is she a hunter? Well, you have to be aware that in their setting, I believe there is a map here too, because Hafsah Faizal is a designer, and one of the things that she mentioned in an interview that I was watching is one of the inspirations that she got for writing the book was actually drawing what it would look like, what the land would look like. And that is how she knew the direction she was going to go with the book. That it was going to be set in ancient Arabia. And so if you take a look, okay, at where they live, on the outskirts of it, there is something called the Az. It's a shadow that is moving in. And so with Zafira's family, her village, game is scarce. It's like you can't go so far because the shadow is moving into the forest. And so as hunters, as the men who are hunters, they cannot go in and they are afraid. And you can see here, has a bow, and arrows. She is one of the few who seems fearless and goes in. And not only does she go in, she comes back out. Nobody can explain it. People believe the hunter is a man because, heaven forbid, a woman do this, right? But she manages to do it. Now, she doesn't do it because she's trying to prove some feminist point, okay? This is about survival. This is about making sure that her family is okay, and because she can do it, that her community is okay. And instantly for me, I was drawn to her character because, she keeps who she is a secret, and many people know who she is within the village, but they keep it a secret too, because they know that if it isn't for her, they would not be there. They would not live. So the Sultan wants to know, who is this mighty hunter, right? Not only does he want to know, he wants to use her. So she gets word that there is an object that might stop the shadow, the Az, from moving in. And because she is a good hunter, because she seems to be able to have, maybe not impervious to magic, but she seems to have something about her that is special, she decides that she will undertake the quest to find this magical artifact. Well, guess what? The Sultan also knows about this artifact and where it is located. And it is a place that is dangerous. It is a place that people are afraid to go because other creatures live there, monstrous creatures. So who do you think he sends? I mean, it's not like the man's crazy about his son, right? And it's not like his son, it's not like Nasir says no. And not only is he supposed to go there, he's supposed to take care of business too. But when they get there, it's not like one of them is going to be able to succeed maybe without the other. So things change. You have a beautiful quest, which is definitely what high fantasy is about. I mean, it's a quest. Just like with Sabriel, she's looking for her father. It's a quest. But you also have, just like with Sabriel, it's good versus evil. There's a horrible danger on the loose in the Old Kingdom. And here, you have an entire world that could be at stake and destroyed if they don't succeed. Fascinating, well-paced, beautiful setting, strong characters. And what they are hiding from each other as well. And what they know that the others don't know. An incredible book. I'm telling you, I don't know if Hafsah Faizal is going to watch this. I can't wait to read your next book. This is just an intriguing book. Beautiful. If you are a fan of fantasy, you do not want to miss this. If you have never read high fantasy, I highly recommend this one. Okay, We Hunt the Flame, which is the first book in a duology. I also recommend Sabriel, okay, by Garth Nix. What I really do appreciate about this too is you definitely have people of color in this, which doesn't always happen in high fantasy. And it's also built upon a mythology that is not Eurocentric, which is wonderful to see. try yourself some fantasy. I will tell you, some people are always a little skittish about fantasy because it's like, ugh, especially high fantasy. It's a new world. There's so much to keep track of. There's so many people. Um, but give it a go. Give it a go. And what I like about both of these, even though they do have, you know, a couple of characters, more than one character, several characters you got to keep track of. It's not like you're reading Lord of the Rings, people, okay? So you don't got like 80 people you got to keep track of, you know, like Elf 1 through 80, okay? Don't get me wrong. I love Lord of the Rings, okay? But this is a great way of easing yourself into it because you do have main characters you need to keep track of that are vital to the story. But it's a really wonderful entry into high fantasy to see if you enjoy it. And those who read high fantasy, it's a really great way of just trying out a new world. And I will say, after 2020, 2021, it's a great way of also escaping and trying something new and seeing a different world. And I love the idea of good versus evil. And, you know, like Star Wars, which is definitely fantasy, that idea of going on that quest and seeing what you can accomplish. Great heroes, finding courage. And I will say in both these books, yes, we do have male characters who are heroic, but there are strong female characters too. And it's wonderful to be able to follow them and to see how powerful both can be. So definitely give it a go. And I will be talking more about the different kinds of fantasy. We'll be doing some mashups with some fantasy. Ooh, can't wait for that. So until then, happy reading. Stay healthy. Thank you for your time.